Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining us right now on the phones, a big meeting scheduled to happen this weekend between Mike Pompeo and Kim Jong-un. And joining us to talk about it, it's been a while since we've visited with our next guest, the Director of Defense Studies at the Center for the National Interest, Harry Kazianis. Harry, welcome back. Good to hear from you.
Hey, it's been a minute. How you been?
It's, pretty good. And I guess you've been real busy paying attention to North Korea and Iran and all these little hot spots all over the world while everyone else has been focused on the politics happening in Washington, D.C., right?
Absolutely.
Well, and this, everything with North Korea seems to have been I don't know about ignored, but kind of swept under the rug. You know, the news of the day, the politics of the day gets in the way of all of this. But there's a big meeting this weekend that I always say may because you never know with North Korea. But it may actually happen between Mike Pompeo and Kim Jong-un, correct?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, to be honest with you, and I actually have a feeling it might go quite well. If you recall, last time we chatted, Mike Pompeo had a third meeting with Kim Jong-un, third time going to Pyongyang, and within a few hours, everything pretty much blew apart. Mike Pompeo put out a positive statement saying it went well. North Koreans, a few hours later, basically made him look like a fool and said the meeting went terribly. So I don't think there's any way that Donald Trump is sending back Mike Pompeo to Pyongyang to essentially be made fool of again. So I have a feeling they have an idea of how this meeting is going to go. I think what this is actually going to do is probably set up another Trump-Kim summit. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that's going to happen, but I think you're going to actually see that probably a week before the midterms. And I think what Donald Trump's going to do here is he wants a legacy builder here, Chad. And what I think he's going to do is he's going to probably set up some sort of declaration to end the Korean War. And I think what he's trying to do is to try to draw the North Koreans out to make some concessions in exchange for that. So I think if you put all those things together, I think that's where we end up.
How has North Korea been doing on their side of the deal after the first summit? How's North Korea been doing?
I think they've been doing what we'd expected. I know major breakthroughs, but I think the big thing is right now is it's a far different world than when we used to talk last year about this stuff, when we were basically talking about potential nuclear war with millions of people dead. So when you set that as the bar, we're doing fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
But the North Koreans still have a ways to go here. They're very leery of making any big concessions because, let's face it, they know that their nuclear weapons are pretty much all they have. They give those up, they're open to invasion or any sort of attack by really anybody, not just the United States. So I think they're leery to give those up, and what they're looking for us is to make some concessions. But it's one of these things, Chad, who's going to go first? That's where we're basically stuck. So what I think Trump is going to do, knowing that he's unconventional, that he can pretty much do anything, is I have a feeling is Pompeo leaves North Korea probably our time Saturday night or Sunday morning our time, and you're going to see Trump send out a tweet saying that there's going to be a summit. I probably would say it's probably going to be in Hawaii because I don't think they'd probably want Kim Jong-un in the U.S. homeland. That the optics of that might not look so good.
Right.
And I bet you there's a summit there, and I bet you Trump ends the Korean War. They have a big signing ceremony, and he can use that going into the midterms to say, look at all the things I've done. I've ended wars. The economy's going well. And that changes the conversation from all these Supreme Court battles. He needs a conversation changer, and I think that's going to be it.
Is that what kind of a major breakthrough is that? Of having this, having a second summit and officially ending the Korean War. How big is that?
For the North Koreans, it would be absolutely huge. This is something they've been asking for 40, 50 years, maybe even longer. They talk a lot about in their propaganda about the U.S. ending their hostile policy, quote unquote, sort of all these little strange things. But for them, that's sort of the first step into maybe opening embassies, exchanging ambassadors. If we're going to have this huge, game-changing historical, rapprochement with North Korea, that's the first step for them. But for us, we need to see some commitment from Kim Jong-un. I mean, he's got to either give up some nuclear weapons, give us sort of a listing of how big his arsenal is, close down a nuclear reactor. So I think there's a deal here. We end the Korean War. They make a step towards denuclearization that's really big. And we can keep going out back and forth like this with them making a concession, we make a concession. And that's how you build trust. And I think you could actually see that. But the ball now is in Kim Jong-un's court. He's got to be the one to take the step.
Visiting with Harry Kazianis here on the Chad Hasty Show. Is there any evidence that the people in North Korea understand or are hearing what's going on, the positive steps between North Korea and the United States?
Good question. Yes, there is some evidence to suggest that. The first thing is that when I've heard different scholars and experts who've actually been to North Korea recently, that they actually don't see any U.S. propaganda anymore. There used to be pictures of nuclear missiles going off on New York or Los Angeles. That's all gone. That's been stripped away. All of the billboards and features in Pyongyang and throughout the countryside are pictures of economic development now. So they've sort of changed their propaganda. Also, in North Korean TV, they actually have been showing pictures of the meetings between Kim Jong-un and Pompeo, on the summit in Singapore between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, and they're actually showing America in a positive light. Also, the North Koreans, just generally in just all their propaganda, they don't even talk about nuclear weapons anymore. It's all about economic development. But the thing I do worry about here is that, are they just trying to sweep the nuclear weapons issue under the rug and just try to get to keep them and just try to focus on economics and hope that we're going to go along with that? That's what we need to be leery of here, because it's great that they're not talking about them anymore, but we've got to get to a point where they're willing to get rid of them.
What is the relationship right now between North Korea and South Korea?
It's actually moved around quite well. I was in Seoul 2 weeks ago, and I have to tell you, it's a complete transformation. I mean, both sides are talking. They're talking regularly. They essentially opened what would be basically considered a de facto embassy. They're actually doing a lot in terms of trying to demilitarize the demilitarized zone. They're taking down landmines.
Yeah, I heard this. Is it South Korea and North Korea taking away the landmines, or just South Korea?
South Korea's doing it now, and the North Koreans have said they are going to reciprocate. They're taking down guard posts. I mean, this is all happening so fast. And I know the media wants to sort of harp on some of the negative things the North Koreans do, and believe me, the North Koreans do them. They're a terrible regime that has 100,000 plus people in prison camps. But the progress here is pretty amazing. Kind of reminds me, Chad, of back in the late 1980s when the Cold War was starting to wind down.
Right.
All these changes were happening so fast you couldn't even keep a track of them. This might be where we're headed. And I mean, you got to give credit to Donald Trump, because we wouldn't be here otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this, and if there weren't, the Supreme Court circus that's going on right now, if the I would say that the media wasn't focused on the guy's tweets all the time. If this were any other president, this would be Nobel Peace Prize worthy, right? You look at the speed that all of this is occurring, and I'm like you. I look at this and go, okay, yeah, but it's still North Korea, and anything could still happen. But the fact that you have now South Korea and North Korea, and South Korea gives a lot of credit to President Trump for working on this, that they're taking away landmines, that they're working together. They're talking about wanting to host the Olympic Games together in North and South Korea. I mean, to me, that's amazing.
Let's put it like this. If this was any other president, if this was Barack Obama, if this was President Hillary Clinton, they would already be giving them the Nobel Prize, to be honest with you. So we've got to you have to give Trump credit. When we talked last year, even in the springtime, I wasn't very in favor of a summit, to be honest with you. But you know what? Trump just doesn't care about how things used to go, or conventional wisdom, or all the political science theories. He doesn't even know any of them. All he does is he goes by his gut. He gets a read of a person. He thinks about what might be possible, and he goes for it. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, he doesn't care, because he doesn't care what the media says. And, I have my problems with this president. Don't get me wrong, but his gut instinct is very sound. And out of all the things you need to be president and be good at foreign policy, to be able to get a read on your opponent and make quick decisions, that's the most important thing, and he's got that. You have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would still love to read some of these letters where they fell in love.
Yeah.
Did you hear this? Where President Trump said that he got a letter from Kim Jong-un and they fell in love over the letter. A little odd how he put that, but I really want to read that letter now.
You know, it's funny. The media went totally crazy on it, but what the media didn't do is they didn't continue on what he kept saying at the rally, because I watched it. And he said it on purpose to drive the media crazy, because he said after, the media's going to go crazy after I just said that. It was so obvious he was kidding. And you know what? This is one of the things Trump does. He's got some humor. He's funny. He's not so serious.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he takes it too far sometimes. But you know what? That's sort of refreshing for me. I like that about him.
Yeah.
And I think people just need to calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, what is happening with North Korea? I mean, it's truly historic. It's amazing what's going on. And I agree with you. If this were Hillary Clinton doing this, one, I don't think it'd be happening. But if it were Hillary Clinton doing this, she'd have the Nobel Peace Prize and well on her way towards re-election, and the world would love her. For President Trump, I think South Korea loves Trump right now. I think they're happy because if you're in South Korea, you're not living under the threat right now of getting hit with a nuclear bomb.
Exactly. And I mean, and I was there, and one of the things, I was sitting in downtown Seoul just looking around, and I thought to myself, my God, if things had gone a totally different way, this would be a nuclear wasteland. There'd be, the 35 million people who live in the Seoul area, or 30 million, they'd all be dead. So this is some of the things that Trump has done. And also President Moon of South Korea, he's pulled off a mini miracle here. He's really put himself on the line to try and work with the North Koreans to try to make this happen. So a lot of people have put out their own, political capital to try to make this happen, and you got to give him credit.
So the Kazianis prediction as we wrap up today's conversation is you think the president will announce the end of the Korean War?
End of the Korean War, and I say first week of November we'll have a summit in Honolulu between Trump and Kim, and that helps Trump save some seats in the House and the Senate because he gets to change that media narrative.
Wow, very nice. Harry Kazianis, as always, we appreciate your insight and you visiting with us. You are the Director of Defense Studies at the Center for the National Interest. Appreciate your time as always, Harry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's Harry Kazianis. All is good for Trump on that front. I mean, you listen to that. Remember where we were last year when we were visiting with Harry Kazianis, and it was the predictions of doom and gloom, and now things are looking pretty good. Got to give Trump credit for it, but the media won't.